Hi, I'm Spenta. I cultivate my own herbs and spices. I love nature. I'm into cooking and baking. I love gardening. Today I wanted to share one of my favorite recipes with you. It's also a favorite by many of my American friends. It's an ethnic dish from where I'm from. As I mentioned, I'm Persian, so this is an ethnic dish from Persia. It's called ash reshteh, and the consistency of it is similar to consistency of chili or stew. It can be prepared with fresh herbs or dried herbs. It includes no meat. It has Persian noodles called reshteh in it. It has Persian style whey called kashk, and it has caramelized onions in and over it with mint that has been prepared in oil. Usually some prepare it in olive oil and some prepare it in vegetable oil. I will go over the recipe with you now. The recipe includes 1 cup cooked lentils, 1 cup cooked chickpeas, 1 cup cooked white beans, 1 cup cooked light kidney beans, 1 cup cooked dark kidney beans, 16 ounces of Persian noodles called reshteh, 1 small bunch of mint, 2 bunches of dill, 1 large bunch of chives, 1 bunch of cilantro, 1 bunch parsley, 1 bunch of leek, 2 tablespoons of dried mint, 2 large onions, and 2 cups of liquid kashk, and kashk is the Persian whey. I would like to share with you and show what you would use if you're not going to use fresh herbs. As I mentioned, I cultivate my own herbs and spices all year round, so I have fresh herbs that I use, and all the herbs that I mentioned I use fresh, and all you have to do is simmer them in oil. Or olive oil, whichever your preference is. If you don't want to purchase fresh herbs or grow fresh herbs or have space to grow fresh herbs, what you could do is you could buy dried sabzi. Sabzi comes for ash version, and this right here is sabzi ash. We call this sabzi ash, and you would put the whole thing in your food. However, you do need to remember that once you open this, you need to let it sit in water for about 30 minutes. It loosens up the herbs that are in here. You still have to simmer it in oil. It's suggested. And this right here is what's called the Persian noodles reshteh. See, it says Reshteh Ashiye, and see right here, Reshteh, and right here it says Kashk Shemshad. It says Persian style whey. And kashk is so delicious. However, you might be careful about putting kashk on your meal. It is pasteurized. It's a dairy product. You might not want to include it. It has a strong flavor for some who are not used to this. Now let's go back on the dish and how I prepare the dish. As I mentioned, I cultivate my own herbs and spices. So once I have all my cooked lentils and beans, I take those and I separate them. I also take all my herbs, I wash them, and I chop them up into small pieces. I then prepare a big pot with oil in it. As I mentioned earlier, you could use olive oil or vegetable oil. And I place my herbs inside this container of oil, and I simmer it on low heat for about 3 minutes. Afterwards, I add 4 cups of water to my dish, which had herbs in it, herbs and oil. Afterwards, I add all my lentils and beans. So I add my 1 cup of cooked lentils, my 1 cup of cooked chickpeas, 1 cup cooked white beans, 1 cup cooked kidney beans, light kidney beans, and a cup of cooked dark kidney beans. I add all those in there. And then I look to see if there's enough water covering all my beans and my material. If there is not enough water covering my material, I add 2 more cups of water, which is usually what I end up doing. This is exactly how I go through the process. So I'm sharing the exact process with you as if I were making it with you step by step. Afterwards, I simmer this mixture of my meal that's so aromatic on low to medium heat setting for 30 minutes. This dish takes 2.5 to 3 hours to prepare, depending on what you are wanting to do. If you are going to use fresh herbs or if you're going to use herbs from a container, what you are going to do does matter. However, I enjoy eating healthy. I love my own herbs and spices. So since I cultivate them, I tend to eat my own food and I tend to eat my own herbs. I have them fresh and handy. I used fresh herbs. If you use fresh herbs, just simmer your herbs inside your dish, or you could use a pan to simmer it. Afterwards, once your herbs are simmered and you added your beans, you added the water, all that is sitting down and it's cooking on low to medium heat, you go to another side of the stove. This is on the stove top, and you prepare a pan, a small little pan or a little pot. I usually prepare a pan with olive oil in it, and I chop up some onions and I caramelize the onions using turmeric powder. I caramelize the onions. I then add 2 tablespoons of dried mint to the caramelized onions. I let them sit until my mixture is ready. And I'll let you know how you know your mixture is ready. After this, I let the onions sit. The caramelized onions are sitting, and I add at this point, which is basically your last point, this is your last step, I add Reshteh, which was my Persian style noodles. This is what I add to my mixture that's over the stove. Just remember, this is what I will be adding to my mixture that's over the stove right here. Share that with you. After I add Reshteh, 10 minutes into this, the food will be about ready. Reshteh doesn't take a long time to cook. It's Persian noodles. It doesn't take a long time to cook. And you don't want to overcook it. It will break. So do not overcook your Reshteh. About 10 minutes on low to medium heat. Maybe 15 minutes max. And then you will have your meal ready. You will know it's ready because on top of this dish, a layer of oil forms, oil with herbs, and that's the minute you know this dish is ready. Together, it takes an hour and a half on the stove, about an hour and a half on the stove to 2 hours. You could also bake it. Baking it would take different time and it would have a different consistency. If you like this mixture to be thicker, add less water, less cups of water. If you like it to be a bit more runny, you could add more water. This dish is not meant to have consistency of a soup. It's meant to have consistency of a chili type dish or a thick stew. Therefore, it doesn't really require a lot of water. As you can see, it's sitting and it's solid. Once your dish is ready and it has formed that layer of oil up top with the herbs, that's the time to dish out your meal. and I dished it out. After I dished it out, I then took this item. It's the yummy, delicious, the Persian style way. Let's see if I can get that on focus. Persian style way right there. Kashkeshem shot. It's so yummy. Very delicious. Very delicious. You take a couple of spoons of that, or however to your liking. I'm just going to say however it is to your liking, because some may like it differently. I like a lot of kashk, so I put kashk on my meal, and I like a lot of caramelized onions. This dish is a very healthy dish. So I scoop out my mixture, basically my ash, because it is ready. At this point, when the oil has formed around my meal, I take my dish and I scoop it out into a Pyrex dish, as I have now. And afterwards, I place a few spoons of kashk. The kashk that I purchased does not need to be liquefied. Some kashk are very thick and you need to add water to them and let them sit for a bit. My kashk does not. That's the way, Persian way. It's actually fine to just use a spoon and mix around the top. Afterwards, I take the caramelized onions and I add them to the top of my dish, and voila, I have my Persian ashe reshteh. This is ashe reshteh and I love eating it. It's a favorite by many of my friends and many had asked for the recipe. I decided to share the recipe with everyone so that everyone could be able to enjoy this dish. It's easy to make. It's a bit time consuming, but it's easy to make. And the items you can purchase from a Mediterranean store, a Persian store, an Arabic store, or you can just purchase it from your health food store if they have herbs, fresh herbs. Usually health food stores have fresh herbs, or you could just grow your herbs. And onions and kashk are optional for this dish, and you can also purchase the noodles for this. This is Spenta. I thank you for watching my share. I hope you enjoyed ashe reshteh with me. For more shares, please take a look at my other content, and my baking and cooking content is available here on my channel. I'd like to take a moment and thank my subscribers. Your comments, likes, subscriptions, and donations are greatly appreciated. I wish you a beautiful day, and I hope you enjoy your ash.